Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's me, Jared, and today we're going to be talking about Drag Me to Hell. I'm excited to get back into some horror movie reviews for the October season, and I wanted to start with this one because I have never actually seen it. And confession time, this is a Sam Raimi movie, and I have to admit that I have never seen a Sam Raimi movie outside of his Spider-Man trilogy and Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. I have not seen any of the Evil Dead trilogy, and of course this film. And I'm actually glad that I got into his horror movies through this movie because it's a little bit more modern and it's not directly going straight into the Evil Dead or Evil Dead 2, which are considered two of his greatest films and such an important part of his filmography. But this one is a smaller film that came out after the Spider-Man trilogy. It was his return to horror, and watching it, knowing what he did with the Spider-Man trilogy, you can really see the filmmaking that he was doing in those films in this film as well, but with a horror spin on it. And from what I've heard from many other people, he has always just kind of had that way with filmmaking. In fact, I would honestly say after watching this movie and knowing what I know about the Evil Dead trilogy, and also watching his Spider-Man movies, I think Sam Raimi has a lot in common with a filmmaker that I adore, such as Peter Jackson, especially when it comes to their B-horror pictures such as Bad Taste and Brain Dead. And this movie in particular is a B-horror film that has a pretty solid budget and looks like a modern studio picture, and it's a whole lot of fun. First off, I have to say that Alison Lamont, who plays the main character in this movie, is fantastic. This performance hinges on her alone. She is fantastic as this character that truly wants to do the right thing. She works in a loan office at a bank, and her boss is constantly undermining her while favoring somebody else because she is unable to make the hard decisions. And so she finally, as the catalyst to this film, makes a difficult decision that sends her spiraling out of control into an event that will change her life forever, as she has 3 days before she is sent to hell, and she has to somehow break that curse. It's a silly plot, and the film itself is silly, of course, because it's B-horror. It doesn't take itself too seriously. However, it still manages to mix comedy and horror in the best ways possible. It's a crazy balls-to-the-wall film that is unapologetic in some of its more gruesome aspects, while also making you laugh. I found myself being as terrified as I was laughing throughout the entire film. There's some moments, such as this lady who is the catalyst to the entire film, who curses Allison's character, and she's just biting her with no dentures in her mouth or anything. And it's so gross and weird and freaky, and I couldn't help but laugh as I was watching it. And that's a really good thing to be able to pull off by making something as equally terrifying, but you're obviously laughing at it as well because it is goofy. And I really like a good horror film that can blend those two things together, and I think very few end up doing it successfully. It either leans too far into one category than the other. However, this movie is just wonderful. The CGI is unapologetically terrible in a lot of ways. It feels lazy in the best way possible. It feels cheap, while also having this pristine look with the picture that's very clean, much like how Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy was. It just feels like there's two opposing worlds at play here: the more demonic, violent nature of hell, and the sterile, basic world that we live in. And there's wonderful performances throughout the film, such as the guy that plays Max in the Avatar films. He is wonderful throughout this film as kind of the main character's gateway into the supernatural world. Justin Long is the boyfriend in this movie, and he's a lot of fun, brings some nice levity to the film, and it's just fun seeing Justin Long in a bunch of horror movies. I have really enjoyed him throughout his career, and it reminded me a lot of him in Barbarian, although I would say that this character is a little bit more serious than his portrayal in that film. But still fun nonetheless. I think that this is a really clever horror film that, again, doesn't take itself too seriously, and it's not trying to. It's ultimately Sam Raimi's attempt to come back to horror and just have a really fun premise and have a fun time doing it. It's not trying to be extremely clever, because if it was, it doesn't really work. But what does work here are the setups and payoffs and a really strong central performance and a character arc that sees this wonderful little character who wants to do good in the world, who has one instance where she does something that will change her life forever, and you slowly see her devolve into just not who she was supposed to be. You see what she is capable of towards the end, and it ultimately leads to a very not particularly shocking climax that I definitely saw coming a mile away, but it's a satisfying climax because you see how her character transformed throughout the film to get to this point, and it's honestly a tragedy. It's a lot of fun, guys. I had so much fun watching this movie. It was entertaining, and again, didn't take itself too seriously. I don't think it was meant to be, and it was just a fun time overall. I'm really glad that I saw this. I'm glad that this was my first horror Sam Raimi film, and really just anything outside of his superhero genre. I had a lot of fun with this, and it's a 7 out of 10. It's nothing particularly great. It does have that great central performance that elevates it quite a bit. It's just a fun horror film that I can see myself rewatching throughout the years and just having a fun time. I will eventually get to Sam Raimi's Evil Dead trilogy. I know that is a staple of B horror for so many people. I know it's crazy that I'm this old and haven't even come across it, but that will have to wait. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Look forward to more of my horror movie reviews coming soon, and as always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and stay positive.